I'm here in a conversation with Diane Dujon, and of course we're talking about basic income and implementation. She touches on subjects of poverty and the poor, and that we are fighting the poor rather than fighting poverty, that everybody has worth and everybody has value, everybody deserves, and stop vilifying the poor. Listen in and enjoy the conversation. Thank you. Well, Diane, thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
My name is Diane Dujon, and I'm an anti-poverty activist, and was a founding publisher of Survival News.
How did you find your way to the basic income movement?
Well, I'm a former welfare recipient and have been in the struggle to fight against poverty for decades. That everybody, especially in this country, as wealthy as it is, should fight poverty and not the poor. And I just feel like this is a way for people to fight poverty without vilifying the poor, and to at least start out on a level playing field. I think it's a great way to eliminate poverty and without castigating people that are poor. That's one of the things that always bothered me when I was on welfare, that even the president would say terrible things about women in poverty as if it was their fault. And in this very wealthy country, it just upsets me that some people could have more than they could spend in 8 lifetimes and the next person have nothing. And the person that has all this money doesn't feel like they should spread what they have or share what they have with their fellow neighbors and their fellow citizens. And so I just feel like this is a good step in the right direction.
Tell us about, in your experience, being judged and the prejudice and what you had to go through or going through.
Well, first of all, I feel like too many people think that if you if you're in poverty, if you're suffering poverty, that is something that you did or are not doing. And they begin to judge you. And they assume that this country does everything it can to help you. And so if you're not benefiting from it, then it's your fault. And so without even knowing you, people begin to misjudge you. And I think also people misjudge where they are in the stratosphere. You know, like I said the other day, politicians always pander to the middle class. And I think too many people think they're part of the middle class. And that's because they look down instead of looking up and realizing they ain't nowhere near the middle. You know, I mean, to have billionaires and then to have the next guy 5 miles away have nothing, to me, it's ridiculous. What a waste. And we need to learn how to share better. So that's why I think the basic income is a step in the right direction, because it's a way of leveling out the field so that everybody at least starts with a level, a way to exist. And there's certain things we need to be able to stay alive. We need to eat. We need a roof over our heads, you know? And I mean, those basic necessities, everybody should have, especially in a country as wealthy as ours.
You're touching on something. People think the poor people, it's their fault. They did something wrong. Who are the poor people? And how do they get there?
There's a variety of ways they get there. Sometimes you're just born into poverty. But also, it's like I tell people all the time, sometimes it's your boss that decides that tomorrow you go to the welfare office. I mean, if you look at the way all these businesses are closing and corporations are changing what they do and buying out other corporations and firing everybody in the labor force that work there, then all of a sudden you don't have a job, then guess what? You drop into poverty. You don't have a way to pay your bills and buy the necessities of life. Sometimes it's sickness, sometimes people get sick, and they don't have the wherewithal to be able to keep themselves healthy and be able to pay all those doctor's bills at the same time. Sometimes it's, I don't know, there's so many ways that people get poor. And so it's not always their fault, and they shouldn't be vilified for it. I mean, life takes all kinds of changes, and we need to just help one another. That's the way I feel about it.
Are the poor lazy?
Of course not. First of all, when you're poor, you got to do everything yourself. You can't afford to pay somebody else to do it, so you do everything yourself. And it's a lot harder. Usually, you can't afford the transportation that people that make more money can. So a lot of times you have to either walk or take worse transportation, so it takes you longer to get somewhere, and everything's harder. I remember Ronald Reagan used to make me so mad calling welfare recipients lazy. This man didn't clean his own house, didn't cook his own food, didn't drive himself even around, and had the nerve to call poor people lazy. I called him lazy, but anyway.
Are we fighting poverty?
Not enough. The dedication to fighting poverty has diminished. And I think, personally, that when they decided that they wanted to make welfare temporary, with a time limit, and it's like, do they know how long it takes to raise a child? We need to be supporting that mother in raising that child so that we can have the best youth coming after us as possible. Not vilifying them and telling that mother, you have to leave the house and we don't care about your children and you shouldn't care about your children, or what they need. Go get a job, and to me that just tore it. In fact, some of the students I went to school with, we did a documentary. We even made up a song. They call it Work Experience, but it's Slavery for the State. And we ended up winning a national media award that we didn't even know was available, called the Alice Award. But it was because we were just totally outraged that if you're poor and you are taking care of your children, that nobody thinks that that's worth it. And for us, it's worth everything. That's our children. We love them. We want to give them the best. And so when I see what's happening, especially in a lot of the cities and a lot of the urban poverty-stricken neighborhoods, when I see what's happening with those kids and what they're doing, I know why. And for our society to tell their mothers, you shouldn't have stayed home with them, then they get what they got. To me, being a mother is my first job. I don't care what the president or the Ways to Be Mean committee of my state says. I don't care. I'm going to be my child's mother, and I'm going to be the best mother I can be. Sometimes when people their husbands have a great job, they're able to say, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have 3 lovely children. But if you're a single mother and you have to stay at home because you have 3 lovely children, you have to take care of them, people vilify you and act like that's not work. You need to be working, But just being a mother, just staying alive in this country is work to me. So to act like people don't deserve to have the basic necessities of life, to me, that's a sin. And I don't know, maybe I'd feel differently if we were in a country that, you know, people lived in huts or something like that. But in this country, we need to make sure everybody has the basic necessities of life, at least. I think, and then some.
What is a plan forward for you? What would you like to see happen, especially in relationship to basic income?
What I'd like to see happen is everybody has enough to be able to have a roof over their head, clothes on their back, food in their stomach, good food, and to be able to weather all the other circumstances of life. If somebody gets sick, that you're able to take care of them or take them to the doctor and help them to get well without worrying about how am I going to eat next week or how am I going to pay my rent next week. I just feel like we should at least be able to do that, help people, because there's a whole bunch of other things that come up in life that we need to be ready to take care of. But we got to be able to at least know that we're going to be able to eat and make it into the next month or so without having to go through a worse atrocity.
What would be our society like if you would have basic income? What would happen to us?
Well, for one thing, I think we would value each other a whole lot more. And we would recognize that everybody is worth something. And we would see people being able to give their best. Sometimes people don't realize what they are gifted for. And I believe everybody has something to give back to our society. That if you feel like you have to do this over here, you never get to find out what that gift is. And I think that a lot of more people will be able to find what innate gifts they have that they were even born with. They'll be able to pursue those things. And our society will do a whole lot better because people will be doing things that they love and giving back in the way that they like to give.
What has to happen that the idea of basic income enters the minds and hearts of people and become a reality?
I think what has to happen is people have to really look at what's going on, really look at what is going on in this society and be honest about it. You know, if you look around and you see how many people are suffering because they don't have the basic necessities of life, and you count those people up and you get honest about it, and you see how many resources and how much money there is in this country and our ability to be able to meet those needs, that's what has to happen. People have to be realistic and stop deluding themselves and really look at what's going on.
How would they get to this idea? People need to wake up because they're also being put to sleep, you know? I mean, if you turn on the television, it's a giant sleep and stay calm machine. What needs to happen?
Well, and you know, it's so crazy because today, I mean, even I'm not technically up to date, but there's so much they can find out. Even if you do it by going to the library, looking up statistics, finding out, you know, what's really happening in this country. And I agree with you, you know, television is a put to sleeper. So they need to turn off the TV and do something that's worthwhile and make it their business to find out what's happening in this country. Because too many people find themselves they don't wake up until all of a sudden their company closes down. And everybody they know that they worked with is out of a job. And then they're like, how did that happen? But it's happening all over the place. And that's why people need to wake up. They need to really look around and see what's going on. It's like I was telling this class that I was talking to young people. People in this country get upset when a mother gets $50 worth of food stamps, but they cheer it on when they spend $200 million to send a rocket to the moon, and they know nobody's on the moon. To me, that's craziness. Why would you spend $200 million to put a rocket on the moon and then get mad because a woman gets $50 in food stamps? I would rather her be able to feed her children and herself to move on and stay healthy than to put a rocket on the moon. But, you know, this country deludes people into thinking that's success. And feeding that woman, she's not worth it. Why would you want to do that? You know, if she can't feed herself, there's something wrong with her.
Why are we so complacent?
Because I think this country likes people to be deluded. They want to pretend that, oh, we're the greatest thing going on earth, but they're not really honest about what it is they're doing. And I think it's so that they can get away with whatever they want. And the way they're privatizing everything, I mean, I think they're trying to make the word public obsolete. I usually publish this newspaper, Survival News, and that was going to be my next article. Because the public housing that nobody used to want to live in, it was built for the poor. Now they're selling them to private institutions and saying, okay, and raising the rent so high that poor people can't even stay in them anymore. And I feel like they're moving poor people out of the city. And poor people need to be in the city where all the resources are because they don't have any way to get to them, especially from the suburbs. And the people in the suburbs certainly don't want, especially people of color out there. So you know, we've been having meetings in Boston on development without displacement. And that's just what they're doing. They're displacing everybody and they're privatizing everything. And that's a very dangerous place to go, in my opinion. And the fact that public makes people feel like they all own it. And I think that's what's important, that we recognize what public is and what it feels that everybody has ownership of it and deserves some say in what's happening. And if we don't watch out, we're going to lose all of that.
Do you think we can make it?
Shift it? I think we can. I really do. It's going to take a lot of work. And it's going to take people really waking up. But I think it can be done because the statistics are out there, the facts are out there. We just got to get it into people's heads and into their hearts, because we can do a lot better in this country. We need to do a lot better. And we need to stop thinking that some people aren't worth anything. Everybody is worth it. And everybody deserves it. And we need to do whatever we can, I'm telling you, because we're supposed to be a society. We gotta love our neighbors. As you know, as we love ourselves, you know, and we have to realize that someday we might need help, and we hope that the man next door helps us out. You know, that he doesn't turn around and say, "Oh, you're not worth it. I'm not helping you out." You know, everybody needs help at some time, and we need to figure out how to do that and how to do it well. And we've done other things that have been wonderful. I think we can do it. We just have to have the will and the willpower.